Welcome back to another video and another week here at Barham Engines. On this wonderful Monday afternoon, and it's not even 5 o'clock.
Nope. Was it only half 2-ish? Quarter past?
10 to 3.
Oh.
Early for us.
That is pretty good.
So mate, got a couple of things to go on about today, haven't we? One, something we found over there with the RS500. A little lesson there, could be, for the viewers or anyone that's involved in building an engine. Good news on the Zetec, mate. You're going to be doing the timing today for us.
I am, yeah.
So if none of the other 40,000 subscribers, it's going to be very pleasurable for the owner. That's what we do. We go out of our way for these customers. But firstly, mate, came in this morning, Monday morning. Always come into a bit of good news, don't we?
Yeah.
Come into a letter. Several letters, one of which I had to sign for.
Right.
Which is never normally good news.
No.
It's normally a very important bill or something. But yeah, had a letter off a customer, previous customer. So the only reason I'm mentioning this really is because obviously we have a lot of warranty type, not issues, but...
Well, things that potentially need sorting out or looking at.
Exactly.
Or there needs to be some sort of communication between us and the customer.
There does, yeah. And obviously there's different sort of kinds of warranty scenarios and you have to deal with them all sort of differently, don't you?
You do.
All part of the business, all part of all small businesses. Not really, not just the engine reconditioning game. So yeah, came into a letter off a customer who has been in touch with us via phone. Am I right? Before?
Yeah, he's rung up and yeah.
So basically apparently we did a cylinder head for him in
April,
I think it was invoiced,
finished
wasn't
it
it?
In April, yeah.
Was it only that or the crank?
We had the whole lot. Initially wanted the full works doing, and then for budget reasons he sort of scaled back to just having the cylinder head done.
Okay, so we did various bits of work on the cylinder head, overhaul, etc. Guide, sleeves and... Yeah,
sleeve the guides, yep.
But anyway, so he got in touch saying that he wasn't happy with a few bits. You kindly, I think you dealt with it.
Yeah, he'd spoken to John. He ended up sending me some pictures and things on WhatsApp. I responded and... Yeah.
And you very politely and professionally told him to, we need to obviously see the engine, see the bits and bobs back, don't we?
He'd sit back and I said, yeah, get them back to us and we'll rectify any issues.
As we're entitled to.
Yeah.
That's the correct way to approach it. Didn't hear anything back. I came in this morning to a letter stating pretty much the same thing. He got a list of things that he wasn't happy with, under his own opinion, mind, no professional opinion.
Yeah.
And he wants a full refund of the original amount and the reason he's is he's lost confidence in us.
Well, whilst that's all sort of well and good, it's like you just said, it's within our rights to ask for it back.
We reserve the right to rectify, at least rectify once in a reasonable time. Yeah. But as I say, at this point, we need to at least inspect it to see whether these... Yeah.
For some reason, he's only very recently opened the box up to look at this cylinder head.
Oh, has he?
Even though he picked it up, well, in April, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's a lot of the stuff we do are for ongoing projects, but as we've stated before, with sort of warranty things, it's like people that have engines done and then don't fit them to the vehicle for over a year. It's up to the customer, unfortunately, to make sure that the engine is in good order. Yeah. And there's no issues that need to come back in the warranty within the warranty period.
It's the thing.
Not when they choose to do so.
We don't know what's happened between, if it takes them a year to put the engine in or whatever, then how do we know for sure that that's actually what's happened?
Exactly. And it's the same with this, like I say, the only reason I'm mentioning this letter is, we will, if he sends it back, we will obviously put it on video and show what he's talking about, and you know, we will obviously rectify it in a reasonable time. And but we can't. It'd be the same as anything. If someone had an engine done, unless we actually get a chance to inspect it, then we can't. You know, we can't warrant it. We certainly can't go give him refunds.
No.
So I do understand that he may well have lost confidence for some reason, but that is not reason for us to give back any sort of refund in my eyes.
Yeah, we've got to have the chance to have a look at it and rectify it, and it's sort of how it works, isn't it, really?
That's it, yeah. So I just kindly responded to his letter via email, logged it, and said, you know, we need to see it back, don't we? The Zetec.
Okay.
So you're going to have a go at timing it.
Yeah.
So far, you are what I would say would be pretty much halfway through it.
Yeah, halfway there.
So I'll take control of the camera and you can explain.
Okie dokie.
Here we go. I mean, I don't know who's more nervous, me of using this or you of explaining the way you do the old timing.
Well, so first of all,
yeah,
you need the old disc on the crankshaft there.
You do, yeah.
And then with that, you can find top dead centre with a DTI as well.
Okay, so that is a gauge we've got in the spark plug hole. And
so,
that's got a little probe that sort of touches the top of the piston.
Yeah. So you basically turn the crank through until you sort of get
it roughly on
TDC. And then you turn it back. And I've used, so if we call the 0 there, top dead centre or just past it, wherever it is, I've used the 90 there.
Which is just a marker before it reaches the top dead, the dwell.
So you put it on that 90 before top dead centre.
Yeah.
And then you turn it, you set that to top dead centre once you're on that marker.
Set that on the 0, yeah.
And then you turn it through to top dead centre and back to your marker.
Okay.
And obviously, on this one it was at 8 degrees. It's 8 degrees after.
So basically the centre of that dwell then will be
at 4 degrees after.
It will be half the distance it's moved from the 0.
Yeah. So then you half it, set your wire marker there onto, in this case it was 4
degrees. And then when you move it back to 0, we know we're in the centre of the top dead centre, which is what TDC stands for.
Yeah. So now what I've got to do, I've found the full lift of each cam, what angle that's at. So it's 110 degrees for both.
On both, that's easy enough, isn't it?
Yeah, so what we got to do, we turn it round to 110 degrees, which will be there.
Yeah.
And then, to start with, we see if the cam is at full lift or not, using another DTI on the bucket.
It should sort of be round about there, shouldn't it?
Yeah, it should be near enough.
So to start with, you have put the standard timing tool in the back of the cams there, just to line them up, which would
to hold them, and
which would be on the standard cams would be roughly TDC, wouldn't it?
Yes, yeah.
Obviously, because we're using a vernier pulley setup with dowelled cams, whereas opposed to the original would be dowelless and just a solid pulley like this. And then what you do is you sort of put the timing tools in, leave the cam bolts loose, and you sort of get it on TDC with the pin. Be a pin originally, wouldn't it, on the crank?
Yeah, I think so.
And then the bar in the back of the cams, and then what you do is once you torque it up, do the tensioner up, you torque all these bolts, and jobs are good. And
yeah.
So you've got the bar in the back to get it roughly. We've slackened all these bolts, or Isaac has. Timed it up, torqued up the tensioner, which you can see is an arrow. You make sure you turn it counterclockwise until the arrow comes back into the centre of the little gap. Tighten all that up, and then we've just nipped a couple of bolts on each one.
Yeah.
And that is roughly set up there.
Yeah, so that, if you were to do that up and send it on like that, it would run as it would if it was standard. Yeah, it should run as if it was standard.
Sometimes though, on these aftermarket cams, they do grind them
a little bit off
centre, so they can be out.
But the idea of the vernier pulley is to get the timing absolutely perfect, isn't it?
Exactly.
After machining or whatever.
That's right, yeah. So you can see these pulleys now. Now we've just nipped them. See, that one is on the 0, but the other one is sort of over to advanced. It's advanced about 6 degrees, so hopefully we haven't got to do too much movement that way, otherwise we'll have to go back a tooth and do it all over again.
Yeah. So
what's the next step then, mate?
Next step is, well, take the locking bar out the back.
Yeah.
Don't need that anymore, and then take
your gauge out.
Yeah, take that gauge out and set up like a normal DTI.
Okay.
On the bucket. Start on the exhaust, don't we?
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Start on the exhaust because it's the non-tension side, I suppose.
Yeah.
And then
turn it to 110.
Yeah, basically we want the lobes on number 1, we want them to be at full lift at 110 degrees.
We do, yeah, right in the centre of the dweller, that cam lift on the lobe. Well, let's get to that stage, mate. We'll come back to them.
Yeah.
Well, mate, in the meantime, just going on to the RS500, I've just finished honing it. I'm waiting for it to cool. Might have to open it up a little bit more. Then I can get that in the wash, give it a thorough clean, lick of the old black paint, and that block is ready to be assembled.
Lovely job.
But, mate, what I'll be just mentioning now is something that we've found on the bottom end while stripping. Was the oil pump, what we found in the oil pump. And not only that, but in the oil galleries of the 500. So, if you go back a video or two, once we'd stripped this RS500, we sort of went through our opinion of what we think's happened on the various stages of builds on this thing. But one thing that has surprised me on this, mate, bear in mind it's an RS500, and even when they were cheap, they're always worth a few quid.
Yeah, worth some money.
This thing has had machining, which I don't think all the machining has been done at once. I think it's been done in maybe a couple of builds. So we've had the long studs done, we've had liners fitted, which obviously machining creates cast iron, swarf, etc.
Yeah.
But I suppose I'm mentioning this because it's a good lesson. If any of you guys are going to be building an engine out there or getting machining done, even if you send it to a machine shop, the machine shop are not responsible for cleaning it. You're responsible for cleaning it.
Yeah, it's the builder's responsibility.
We've had this discussion before a couple of months ago when we were going on about that long stud issue that we had.
Yeah.
And there was swarf in there. A lot of people said it was down to us to clean out the bottom of the holes, but probably as a goodwill sort of to an extent, you've got to make it look presentable for the customer. Make sure
and you blow them out and that, but you're not there with a with a torch checking.
It is down to the fitter. End of story. It's the same thing as if customers supply parts to us for building an engine, absolutely fine, but we're responsible for those parts if we fit them.
Yeah.
We can't go then blaming the customer if we fitted them incorrectly. But anyway, we stripped the block completely out, which means we've took out the 2 core plugs on the end and the ball at the other end of the oil gallery on the block. And this is what I found, mate, when I've rodded it through. So that's just a bit of tissue there. That's one bit of tissue. We had several like this.
Yeah.
There's a lot of grimy oil there and a lot of swarf.
There's bronzy stuff.
Some weird bronze swarf, and there's some horrible, gritty, feels like cast iron.
Yeah.
So yeah, obviously at some point it's been machined and not cleaned out thoroughly. I thought, well, if they haven't had the ball out the end, it's going to stay up the end of there. It's not ideal.
Yeah.
There's only one place that swarf's going to go when it's in the oil, isn't it? And that's around your bearings and all that.
It's just going to go everywhere.
But more alarmingly, mate, we've stripped the oil pump out. Now, we've got a new oil pump anyway, but we usually just strip the old one just to sort of see what's been
going on,
see what's been going on. And this is definitely the worst I've ever seen, mate.
This is mental.
Look at the state of that. It's literally worn it away.
That is absolutely nuts.
It's horrendous. Look at that.
That's got to be the worst one you've ever seen.
Well, it is the worst one by far. It was. Look,
anything.
It feels horrendous in there. Look. Oh my good God.
It don't really...
Makes your teeth feel a bit... there's only one way that's happened, mate, and there has just been so much swarf going round there. I would say at some point, one bit of the machining, whether it be the liners or whether it be the long studding, the block has not been cleaned out. The oil guys have not been cleaned out.
Seriously not cleaned out.
At all.
Yeah.
So whether the machining was done with the engine partially stripped,
which is a big no-no.
A big no-no. We've seen it before, but it is definitely a big no-no. But that is definitely the result of. I mean, it hardly turns. I don't know.
For reference, that's meant to be like almost a mirror finish, kind of like that.
Yeah, it's a machined ground finish.
Yeah. It's not. There's no roughness at all on them.
No, the body of the oil pump is over here.
But that don't look too great either.
No. Well, you can see that's the swarf that was in it. Ooh. So that is cast iron swarf.
Yeah.
Look at it in there, look. It's completely worn the aluminium body away.
Yeah, that's
So there's
terrible.
probably about 1/2 mil of clearance in there. It's ripped it to shreds. So the next place that's going to be going is through your crank bearings. So the crank bearing, I suspect this wasn't done on the last build because the crank bearings weren't too bad.
Yeah.
So I suspect that this was done on the machining before. It was recently built. And they've just put some new bearings in it, but they certainly haven't changed the oil pump. They haven't even stripped and checked it because it's still got cast iron in. So this thing hasn't done many miles. If it had, it's just going to rip them bearings to shreds. So if it's any consolation to the customer, thing needed to come to bits.
Definitely.
It's otherwise it's just going to destroy itself. The next thing to start going is things like cam bearings in the head, which then we know you can't salvage them. That means the head's scrap. But fortunately, it didn't go that far.
That is, yeah, it's not great, is it?
Not great, is it?
Really not great.
No. So, a lesson there, guys. If you're going to be building a motor, make sure you clean out every oil gallery. Mm-hmm. So, mate, how are we getting on?
Yeah, so I got it all at TDC on the crank.
Yep.
So now I'm just doing the exhaust cam.
Okay.
And what we're aiming for is full lift, so the valve fully open.
So full lift is the centre of the dwell on the lobe.
Centre of the dwell, fully open at 110 degrees before top dead centre.
Okay.
So at the minute we're sort of here, but we want to end up there.
Yep. So what do we do on the gauge? So we set a
bit of a marker. So that 0 where the needle is the marker.
And that is just before
the
top
full
dead,
lift, basically.
Yeah, full lift, yeah. So you set a marker just before full lift. Then you turn the crank backwards.
Backwards first, yeah.
Yeah. And then take it forwards, just take the slack of the belt.
Back to the marker.
Back to the 0. And then you read the marker down here, so that is 125.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you turn it through clockwise. Until it gets back to the 0.
Kind of a little bit far, but...
And then we have a look at the gauge there, and that is 95. So in between 125 and 95 is 110.
Yep.
And that is bang on, my friend. That's a bit like a one we've made earlier, isn't it?
It is.
A little bit.
Sort of, because we have.
Yeah, and if it was slightly out, you would basically undo these 2 bolts that we just nipped up, and you turn the crank to where you want to go. And
so
then
if it's so it was like 4 degrees out, you turn it back 2 degrees on here, because each notch on there is 2 degrees.
Yeah. And then you nip it.
Yeah.
And then you go back and try it all again.
Yeah.
Bit of a trial and error thing.
Yeah.
But we're happy with that, mate. So you can now torque up all these bolts.
Yep. And move on to the inlet cam.
Move on to the inlet one. Well done, mate.
Thank you.
But that's it, guys, for another video. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you've been interested, and we'll see you Wednesday. Thank you.